India and Canada's diplomatic fallout has reached new lows, with the Trudeau administration doubling down on its charges that the government played a role in the death of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Nijjar. The Indian government has issued a stern rebuttal now, reminding Canada that it has failed to submit any proof despite repeated requests. Furthermore, India has recalled its envoys from Ottawa and also expelled 6 Canadian diplomats from New Delhi. However, as Trudeau claims to champion the rule of law in Canada and points fingers at India, it's without a shadow of doubt that his actions are motivated. A couple of months ago, during the Lok Sabha elections, our sister newspaper, the Sunday Guardian, had conducted a major agenda-setting interview with a man who has been at the centre of this storm. The interview was with Nikhil Gupta, the man arrested for an alleged assassination bid of Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Canada's neighbour and Five Eyes ally, the US, had arrested Nikhil Gupta from Prague last year. Ever since, he has been languishing in jail in the States. In his first interview to any media outlet, Nikhil Gupta answered the Sunday Guardian's questions through an intermediary from jail, particularly highlighting a global attempt to defame India. Let's in fact quickly take a look at the major news points of what he had said in that big exclusive, that big agenda-setting interview. So Nikhil Gupta, in fact, in this interview had said in a big statement, number one, that I am being used as a global tool for a larger agenda, which is to defame India. Also, another big statement that he gave was that all of it is fabricated and politically motivated. It was only meant to affect the elections in India. Also, another big statement, number three, made by Nikhil Gupta was that the US has targeted a specific community using a divide and rule strategy. Also going on to say, I'm just an honest, tax-paying normal citizen like you and the readers of this interview. But in fact, they are playing dirty games, influencing everything, and buying people with money and power is also what he went on to say, saying that they want me to accept the name that they are giving me and to make statements as they want me for their own story. Also saying in a big statement that this is their dirty game. Since I don't know anyone, how can I provide any information or accept what they're asking me to do? My family and I have become entangled in this big game. I am being used as a pawn, is what Gupta added. He also said, I and my family members are expecting assistance from the government of India because I am an innocent man who has been wrongly framed. And the final big statement made by Nikhil Gupta in this Sunday Guardian exclusive was, I have never been involved in any illegal or unlawful activities. Let's in fact throw this open now to our panel that's also joining us today on the broadcast. Let me quickly draw in Major General G.D. Dwivedi, Global Strategic Analyst. Also with us is Monica Verma, International Affairs Expert. Madhav Das Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, joins us live. Joyita Basu, Editor of the Sunday Guardian, is also with us on the program. Professor Nalapat, let me begin with you first. This latest row between India and Canada leads us to once again remember that Sunday Guardian interview where Nikhil Gupta had cast a lot of aspersions on the intentions of the West.
Well, the fact is that he says that he is innocent, that basically there may have been some other Gupta involved or not involved, and he says the whole case is a completely fabricated one. And secondly, he describes the harrowing conditions in prison. And frankly, these conditions are an issue that I'm surprised more human rights people have not raised. It's very clear that the intention of the prosecution is to try and make him an approver in the case. What the prosecution does in some cases, when the prosecution is very zealous, overzealous, if I may say so, and they try and pursue a case in the way they want it to be pursued, rather than the way the facts present themselves, then you try and make people approvers. And if you're approvers, then you get a lighter sentence, you get a much better jail. Otherwise, you're put up in the most horrible jails. And then once you turn approver, you basically sign on the dotted line. You basically say, whatever they ask you to do, you sign on the dotted line. If they say that NewsX anchors are behind this particular thing, you just sign there. That's it. So this is ridiculous today, frankly, what is happening to him. And there's no question there's a geopolitical game there. Unfortunately, there are several elements of anti-India lobbies who are active in the United States, and they want to beat India with this stick that the Indian agencies or Indian government was directly involved, in some assassination plot. Now, the fact of the matter is, Nikhil Gupta, by his claim, he's an honest man. Now, I think the U.S. justice system is a robust system. I hope the U.S. media will be similarly robust, and I hope that Nikhil Gupta's story, once it is corroborated as truth, will ensure that he is acquitted. Because quite frankly, what he describes in Sunday Guardian in an exclusive, and if I may say so, only interview, and I'm quite surprised other people are not tried to interview. Maybe they have, maybe they've been refused access, which again is wrong in a democracy. But I'd like to point out that according to him, he is completely innocent, and that being the case, I'm certain that the court will find him not guilty, and I must compliment him for his courage in refusing to be an approver and just sign on a dotted line. So these people are obviously building a case against X, Y, and Z. We don't know who they are. And they want Nikhil Gupta to say, yes, 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 X, Y, and Z motivated me. And he's refusing to do so. And that's why he's suffering so horribly. So I think, Uday, it's a very terrible story. And it really illustrates that the justice system has got to be just and fair. And you can't make the justice system, unjust in any way, and then expect, frankly, that you are going to deliver justice. This is terrible. What is happening, Nikhil Gupta? Clearly, there is an effort to make him an approver, and I must say that I admire the man's resilience, his courage in standing tall and saying, no, I am innocent, and I'm not going to, to agree to a false charge of guilty, no matter what the consequences. Amazing courage, which you must all admire, Uday.
Absolutely. Let me join Joyita Basu then as well. Joyita, were you also remembering this interview, and particularly the ripples that this interview did create at that point when this fresh row is erupted between India and Canada? How much of what Nikhil Gupta said is actually true will, of course, be proven in the course of the trial. But the doubts that he is cast and aspersions are leading many to wonder as to, once again, what the West is behind when they are again launching these allegations on India for what has transpired on Canadian soil.
Uday, I think what is going on in the particular this Justin Trudeau's case, it is clearly, am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Am I audible?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, you see, because the connection thing, yeah, okay, fine, thank you. The thing is, you see, in Justin Trudeau's case, it is, of course, domestic politics.
Okay, I think we've lost Joyita Basu now. Okay, let's go to Major General Dwivedi. Major General Dwivedi, what did you make of what Nikhil Gupta told the Sunday Guardian then, and how much of it is actually, coming out perhaps to be true through these latest actions and statements being made?
Sometime back, we did discuss this issue when this interview was aired on your channel, and I had made a couple of points. First and foremost, we need to view this issue from larger perspective. And no doubt there are some sinister forces which are behind, because when you join the dots as to the stance of Trudeau and how the America has played it out, how the diplomats are overboard to, hammer this issue out of proportion, definitely there are certain forces which are behind, and we can't discard that assumption. And secondly, coming to the case per se, I think on the face, prima facie, Nikhil Gupta appears to be innocent, because the way these charges have been framed, he was a businessman, and there he was picked up, and then the charges were that he is involved in drug trafficking and gun running, and then the charge was changed that no, he is a murder for the hire, and he was extradited to US. And all that, what does it show? There's lack of consistency. Means that charges are being changed and there's effort to frame. So coming to the justice in US, yes, justice in US may be fair, but it's very, very time consuming. And that means that Mr. Nikhil Gupta is in for the long sort of torture and also intimidation, coercion. So all I can say is three important things. Firstly, it is definitely a great game that is there to tarnish the image of India and try to influence our internal politics and internal dynamics. Secondly, there is a apparent collusion between America and Canada and Trudeau. I think he is burning all the bridges today. The relationship between India and Canada actually has hit the rock bottom because Trudeau is only interested in saving his chair, and he is actually very low on the domestic, popularity. Almost 1/3 of the legislators are backing him. He is almost begging for the support of Jagmeet like people who are anti-India. And when you join the dots, it appears that something big is going on. And thirdly, I think India must support Nikhil Gupta after all. He's our citizen. If Americans are so concerned about Gurpatwant Singh Panu, I think we also are very concerned about our citizen, and we should extend all the support to Nikhil Gupta, who apparently is innocent and being framed. Uday.
Okay, let me take that quickly across to Joyita Basu once again. I believe she's back with us. Joyita, if your connection is back up and running, please go ahead.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you see, this is whatever Trudeau is doing. It is driven by his domestic political compulsions. Jagmeet Singh has withdrawn support from him. He not only wants Jagmeet either back, or if he is looking at the elections, he also wants basically Khalistani support back. So what this Trudeau is doing right now, he is talking about, India is, he is painting India as the biggest ogre possible, when it is actually China that has been found guilty of domestic interference, domestic political interference, domestic election interferences, and he is complicit in that to basically, number one, divert attention from there. He is talking about India, he is ratcheting up that tension. He thinks that he can put India relations at stake. It doesn't matter. The whole point is, and apart from that, these are the two aspects that he is talking about. If there is a possibility, Jagmeet Singh can still ensure that this government falls. So you see, by kind of making this into a whole issue, now Trudeau is talking about how India is targeting the Sikh population without making a distinction between the Sikhs and the Khalistanis, which this Royal Canadian Mounted Police Chief who gave the press conference, he made it clear that no, whatever attacks, etc., that they are claiming, we are not talking about the Sikh population, we are talking about the Khalistanis. Now, this distinction, what Trudeau is doing, he is blurring that distinction, and he is trying to prove that how India is anti-Sikh. So, you see, what is going to happen, and that's what exactly Nikhil Gupta had also said, that this is all about Indian elections at that point of time, because they wanted to alienate the Sikhs from the ruling party in India. So they painted India as anti-Sikh and the ruling party as anti-Sikh. But having said that, this is, I hope, the problem is, you see, the US, how the US handles it. Okay, if the US also starts singing Trudeau's tune, because you see what the Western media has started doing, Washington Post has named a senior minister in the NDA government. You see, once they start playing these games, these guessing games, they are just pinpointing the blame on people that their backers do not like. And where is the proof? Till date, it has been over a year now that Trudeau stood up in Canadian Parliament and said that yes, India is involved allegedly and all that. And that is what he is being laughed at about. Till date, again, he gave a press conference, and what was the proof that he provided? His attitude was, he said, trust me, I'm telling the truth. Sorry, who are you? You are the biggest, I would say, truth is something that does not come anywhere near you. So all you have to say is that trust me, sorry, we do not trust you. And if Trudeau thinks that he can, the Canada-India relations are not, I mean, he can kind of do whatever he wants to do at the cost of Canada-Indian relations. What makes him think that Canada is so high up on India's list of, global priorities and the relations that India will be, not be willing to downgrade relations with Canada? We just have to stop the flow of students and let's see what happens to their education industry.
Yes. Okay, let's take that to Monica Verma as well. Monica, what's your take, of course, on what, Nikhil Gupta had said then, its ripples being felt even up till now, and what, bearing those allegations have on the current crisis that we're seeing between India and Canada?
Well, I think, first of all, I must congratulate your publication for coming up with such a fantastic interview. I understand, there must have been challenges to reach Nikhil Gupta and get his side of story. But it's a great scoop. I think this should be covered by Indian media at large. I think more people should pick it up and tell people how, two Western governments, whether it's Canada or it's United States of America, so those governments who talk about human rights all the time are treating a person without any substantial evidence in the worst possible way. I think this is something which we've already seen in the Gitmo. The way terrorists were tortured, the way, people without any substantial evidence were put into jail. So I think this, I read the report and it's reminding me of the way, during the war on terror, certain people were treated by these so-called states. So I think it's a very timely piece. Just yesterday we saw how the entire Western machinery has colluded to declare India as the culprit. They are naming our Home Minister. They're going after our lives. It's been a year now that not just the Canadian government. See, a lot of people are saying it's because of the domestic politics. Definitely it is because of the domestic politics. But what we cannot ignore is this, that, the Western world is not liking India's foreign policy. Probably they have a problem with the independent stand that our foreign policy is taking. Probably they have a problem with the way India-Russia relations are shaping. And, look at the timing. BRICS summit is going to occur. Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit is taking place simultaneously. So possibly they have understood that, India is now rising and India is also taking a very independent and a very autonomous way to its foreign policy. So probably these powers are not liking it. And maybe they have invented something known as India unleashing unknown, gunmen after their people. And it's ironic because, Gurpatwan Singh Pannu is someone who day in, day out is threatening our leaders. He issues such statements which would, in a proper democracy, someone like that issuing threats to diplomats or someone like that issuing threats to the leaders of a country would have a place in jail. They would be sent into the jail and not defended the way the Canadian government or the American government are defending Nijjar or Pannu. So I think it is a very, very worrying trend. If this is how the Western countries are behaving when it comes to human rights, if this is how the Western countries are behaving when it comes to terrorism, then I think the world is not a safe place anymore. I think there should be a concerted attempt by all the countries in the South, and they should be holding the Canadian government as well as the American government to account that how dare you allow Khalistani separatists, how dare you allow them to, play a game with our country, with our territorial integrity and sovereignty. I think it's high time that we should do that.
Okay, let me go back across to Professor Nalapat as well. Professor Nalapat, as far as, of course, now this Western hypocrisy is concerned, is it likely to change anytime soon, or is this the trend that's going to stay?
Well, Uday, quite frankly, you have an election coming up in the US very soon, less than a month from now, and the result of that election is going to be very decisive. I don't think Donald Trump is going to fall into the same trap. And may I point out that Trudeau is doing his level best to divert attention from the very significant evidence that he's colluding with China. If you look at social media, including in Canada, extensively in Canada, by the way, and in parts of the mainstream media as well, you will find a lot of information which is being revealed now about Trudeau's links with China. His father had very extensive links with China, and now the son has too. So he had to divert attention. How do you divert attention? By creating a bogey, and that bogey is the biggest democracy in the world, India. He's picked on the wrong bogey and the wrong country, but that is the point. He wanted a country which is as big as China in terms of population size and potential, and he said, well, okay, let's make it India. So essentially, he's trying to divert attention from the reality of Chinese influence in Canada, Chinese interference. And may I point out one thing? All this has been done by gangsters. Now, gangsters will do whatever people with money ask them to do. And, narcotics trade, which is flourishing, I'm sorry to say, in Canada and the parts of the United States even now, well, that generates a lot of money, illicit money. So the fact is, we don't know who the bad actors are who could have motivated this kind of so-called plot, alleged plot. But what I can tell you is that Justin Trudeau is doing extensive harm to security of the Indo-Pacific where democracies are concerned. And in this, I think he will get, whatever is the highest state honor in Xi's China, I think they will feel that he deserves that honor. So maybe, after the election, he will go to China and get that honor because he's doing his best to destroy relations, not just with Canada, but he's using Canada as a battering ram to destroy India's relations with the Western world. And that is something with the Chinese Communist Party led by Xi Jinping will be very grateful to Mr. Trudeau for, just as they're grateful to his father for basically breaking the cordon around China and going.
Okay, let me quickly, in fact, also begin to get now some closing comments. First from you, Major Dwivedi.
Well, Uday, the first and foremost, you raised the issue of Western hypocrisy.
Yes.
Well, West has always, adopted double standards, and that's not going to change anytime soon. That's the DNA, and we must accept that. Secondly, as far as Canada is concerned, Canada doesn't have that global heft that they are in a delusion. I think in this whole game, Canada is going to take greater hit than India, and that's what Trudeau must understand. And ironically, he is willing to sacrifice his national interest. So be it. I think his days are numbered, and he is going to be booted out very quickly. Third point about America, I think India-America relations are very deep. They are strategic relations, and the American administration would understand that just for one, expendable Gurpatman Singh Panu, the relations between the two countries are not going to be sacrificed, and I think this will blow away. All I can say is India must take a very pragmatic and tough stand, and this kind of heft or kind of image or situation being created, we should take it head on. And at the end of the day, diplomacy always is in a state of flux, and I think in days to come, the Canadian relationship will once again back on the track with Trudeau making an exit, and the Americans largely would realize that say the expendable commodities should not hurt the interest at the national level, and that's what I think the larger game should be. Uday.
Okay, let me quickly also now get the last word from Joyita Basu on which way you see this crisis now headed.
Well, I think what Trudeau will try to do, because you see, he basically is thinking of saving his own skin and nothing more than that. So what he will try to do, he will try to rope in again the United States and try to get a statement from them saying that, you see, India is the bad actor here, Indian government is the bad actor here. That is what he's trying to do, because that is going to validate his case that he is the innocent one, that he is on the right path and all. But then I think the timing is a little awry, primarily because the US is going through an election process. So any statement against India at this point, at this juncture, is not going to help I would say the Democratic Party, because there are some Indians who will be voting either for Kamala Harris or for Trump. So this is the wrong time. If you're looking at it, US election is on November 4th, I think, 4th or 5th. So just a few weeks away. So I think he has got his timing wrong, but I wish Mr. Trudeau would actually, if he's going to talk about proof, he will go beyond, trust me, bro. You know, that is what exactly he is doing. And until that is done, India should make it very clear to them that if Canada thinks that, you know, India relations are not important, that feeling is reciprocated by India many times over. In fact, shut down diplomatic relations with Canada altogether. That is what I would say.
Monica Verma, 30 seconds. Yes, that could be in the offing, Joyita, you're right.
I think we can actually look at, you know, how deepened India and US relations have become in the last decade. But if this continues further, then we can definitely see a lot of backlashes coming from people already. People have become very suspicious of their intentions, their actions, and it's high time that they mend it. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for any other government to, you know, push any more deepening of the relations between India and the West.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.